If Earth were suddenly covered in ice, the transformation would be immediate and catastrophic. A dramatic shift from vibrant life to a frozen stillness that would reshape every aspect of our planet. This isn't a gradual descent into an ice age, but an instantaneous encasing, a truly unprecedented event that would test the very limits of planetary resilience and the survival instincts of every living thing. The first, most palpable change would be the light. Imagine the sun, still burning fiercely in the sky, but its warmth and radiance now blocked by an impenetrable shell of ice. Our world would plunge into a perpetual twilight, a dim, eerie illumination filtering through layers of frozen water. Without direct sunlight, photosynthesis, the fundamental process sustaining most life on Earth, would cease almost instantly. Plants would begin to die, leading to a cascading collapse of ecosystems. The air itself would likely be filled with a chilling, almost palpable silence, broken only by the groan of freezing structures and the unforgiving howl of icy winds that would whip across the newly formed glacial landscapes. Then comes the temperature. A sudden ice cover wouldn't just mean freezing. It would mean an extreme, rapid drop in temperature to levels far below anything most life forms have evolved to withstand. Surface temperatures could plummet to tens or even hundreds of degrees below zero within hours or days, as the insulating effect of the atmosphere is overwhelmed by the immense heat sink of the new ice. This wouldn't be just a cold snap. It would be an existential cold, reaching into every nook and cranny, freezing every exposed surface. Water, the very essence of life, would solidify everywhere. Oceans, lakes, and rivers would turn into vast, unyielding sheets of ice, extending miles deep, trapping marine life in suspended animation or crushing it outright. The sheer pressure exerted by such a rapid and enormous freezing would be immense, capable of fracturing geological structures. Humanity, unprepared for such an abrupt change, would face an almost insurmountable challenge. Our cities, built for temperate climates, would be rendered obsolete. Buildings, designed to shed rain and snow, would buckle under the weight of immense ice accumulation. Power lines, communication networks, and transportation infrastructure would freeze solid, snap, and collapse, plunging billions into darkness and isolation. The immediate aftermath would be utter chaos. People caught outdoors would perish from hypothermia almost instantly. Those indoors would quickly realize their homes were becoming death traps. Heating systems would fail without power, water pipes would burst, and food supplies would become inaccessible or freeze solid. Survival would hinge entirely on the ability to find or create immediate, deep shelter and to generate sustainable heat. Underground bunkers, if any were deep enough and self-sufficient, might offer a slim chance. But how many people have access to such facilities? The vast majority would be left to face the elements with no hope of rescue. Supply chains would vanish. Forget grocery stores or emergency services, the entire global infrastructure would simply cease to function. The sheer scale of death would be catastrophic, unprecedented in human history. Billions would die in the initial phase, perhaps within weeks. For any survivors, the challenges would only multiply. The first priority would be breathable air within sealed environments. Without plants, oxygen recycling would stop, leading to stale, potentially toxic atmospheres in isolated shelters. Carbon monoxide poisoning from primitive heating methods would become a constant threat. Obtaining fresh water would also be a monumental task. While ice is essentially frozen water, melting it requires a tremendous amount of energy, which would be scarce. Fuel for heating and melting would become the most valuable commodity, leading to brutal conflicts among any remaining groups. Scavenging for resources would be fraught with peril, venturing out into a world utterly transformed and lethally cold. Food, too, would be an immediate crisis. All agriculture would be destroyed. Livestock would freeze. Canned goods and dried foods would be the only option, but these have finite shelf lives and would be difficult to access in a frozen world. Hunting would be impossible. Most animals would have died, and the few remaining would be deep underground or in an equally desperate struggle for existence. The psychological toll of living in perpetual dimness, surrounded by an endless frozen expanse, with the knowledge that almost everyone they knew was gone, would be immense. Mental health would degrade rapidly under such extreme, constant stress and isolation. Beyond humanity, the planet itself would undergo profound and irreversible changes. The sudden increase in Earth's albedo, its reflectivity, would create a vicious feedback loop. More ice means more sunlight reflected back into space, which means less heat absorbed by the Earth, leading to even colder temperatures, perpetuating the ice cover. This runaway glaciation would accelerate the cooling process. Atmospheric circulation patterns would completely reconfigure. Without the temperature gradients driven by a sun-warmed surface, the powerful currents that distribute heat and moisture would cease or shift dramatically. Wind patterns would become incredibly strong, scouring the ice surface and potentially lifting massive dust storms composed of frozen particulate matter. Geologically, the sheer weight of a global ice sheet, potentially miles thick, would depress the Earth's crust. Areas previously above sea level would sink, while others might experience uplift after the ice eventually recedes, a process known as isostatic rebound. But this would happen on geological timescales, far beyond any human concern. Volcanoes might see altered activity due to the changes in pressure on the crust. Tectonic plate movement, while driven by deeper forces, could be influenced by these surface changes, though the direct impact would be subtle and long-term. The oceans, trapped under thick ice, would become stagnant, their currents halted. Without the usual mixing, oxygen levels would deplete and chemical compositions would shift dramatically, making them uninhabitable for most complex marine life. Only life adapted to extreme conditions, like chemosynthetic organisms around hydrothermal vents, might persist in the deepest, most geologically active parts of the ocean floor, existing in perpetual darkness and sustained by Earth's internal heat. Life on the surface would face a mass extinction event of unparalleled scale. Most plants, insects, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals would simply not survive the immediate freezing and loss of food sources. Birds would fall from the sky, their wings icing over. Large mammals would freeze in place. Only highly specialized extremophiles, certain bacteria, archaea, and perhaps some fungi might find niches beneath the ice, in geothermal hotspots or within incredibly hardy microenvironments. Subglacial lakes warmed by geothermal activity could become isolated biomes, preserving a fragmented, ancient form of life. Could Earth ever recover from such an event? The path to recovery would be agonizingly slow, if even possible. For the ice to melt, the planet would need a significant source of warmth. This could potentially come from sustained, massive volcanic activity, releasing greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. This CO2, trapped by the global ice, would slowly build up over millions of years, eventually creating a super greenhouse effect that could begin to melt the ice from the top down. However, without a functioning carbon cycle driven by oceans and plant life, this process would be incredibly inefficient. The timescale for such a natural recovery would be in the order of tens to hundreds of millions of years, far exceeding any human lifespan or historical record. If any pockets of humanity did manage to survive, perhaps deep underground, sustained by geothermal energy or advanced closed-loop systems, their existence would be one of perpetual vigilance against the crushing cold and the depletion of resources. Their descendants, generations removed, might emerge into a vastly different world, one shaped by colossal ice sheets and an atmosphere slowly rebalancing itself. Their understanding of the old Earth would be based on fragmented records and stories, a mythical land of warmth and green. They would essentially be pioneers, recolonizing a planet that had been reset to a primeval state, facing challenges that would dwarf anything we currently comprehend. The concept of civilization, as we know it, would be a distant, almost incomprehensible memory. The sudden global freeze would therefore represent not just a disaster, but an almost complete geological and biological reset. It would be an event so profound that it would erase nearly all traces of our current world, leaving behind a sterile, frozen monument to what once was. The forces required to instigate such an immediate, planet-wide ice cover would be immense, perhaps an unprecedented astronomical event, a sudden catastrophic shift in Earth's axial tilt, or an instant depletion of atmospheric greenhouse gases. Whatever the cause, the effect would be absolute. Our blue marble, a beacon of life in the cosmos, would become a stark white sphere, silently orbiting its star, a frozen testament to the fragility of existence and the delicate balance that sustains life. This is not just a bad day. It is the end of an era, a complete transformation into a world where only the hardiest, most hidden forms of life could ever hope to cling on, waiting patiently for a warming that might never come on any timescale relevant to a species like ours.